Hello Leo, and welcome to your in-depth monthly horoscope for June 2023 for the Sun or the Ascendant. I'm going to share some standout details for you to look out for, but please stay with me as I explore much more deeply all the key influences and timings for your sign in particular. Now, this month sees Venus arrive in Leo on the 5th, where it's going to be with you for 4 months. This is extraordinarily unusual. Venus usually takes around about 28 days to work its way through each zodiac sign, and of course it's because of a retrograde. Now that begins on the 23rd of July and goes on for 44 days, but essentially Venus is with you from the 5th through to the 9th of October. And Venus in your own sign, Venus in Leo, is a gorgeous combination. And you already have Mars in the sign of Leo too, and they're going to be teaming up almost side by side as this month draws to a close. So I can't wait to share all about that with you and much more. But please also click on or tap on the subscribe button. This means every time I drop a video you'll get an alert. Also, if you would like to get your free daily written horoscope fired to your device each morning, totally free, you can sign up for your Sun or your Ascendant or both. The choice is yours. Please see the link below. And if you would like to ascend above this zodiac broadcast and really embrace more serious astrology and the power of it and how it can influence your future so helpfully, if you give me 3 pieces of personal birth data of time, date and place of birth, I can provide for you your life roadmap report. This can help you to get a much more intimate understanding of the patterns that have impacted on your journey so far, but also how you can capitalize on your strength and avoid some of the challenges that may have repeated themselves. Also, my special package of 30% off, you can get your 12-month personal forecast, totally unique to you, which will give you searing insights for the months to come. If you don't know your time, my new solar package works in the same way, 30% off, the life roadmap and the forecast, but this is based on your sun. And if you enjoy sun sign astrology videos on YouTube, this is going to be something that you easily relate to, but can still give you some incredibly valuable insights. Please see the links below for more. So Leo, as you burst into June, the Sun for you is in house 11, very sociable, interactive, very much about your future plans and hopes, but a big cluster of energy is in the 10th house in the sign of Taurus, which is your connection to the wider world. It's the most visible part of a horoscope. It can be where you can gain greater recognition, and there's a particularly fortunate combination between Jupiter and the North Node through the first 10 days. So some kind of breakthrough in your career is entirely possible. But also, as we work our way into this month, Venus, before it arrives in your sign, is in an opposition with Pluto. So around a business discussion, there could be some confidential discussions which you may have to keep very close to your chest. Or in a romantic dimension, is there something that hasn't really worked out for you that you could be contemplating bringing to a final conclusion? And the reason for that is that Venus is in the opposition with Pluto, the planet of power, but also of secret. So entirely possible, I feel. But Jupiter, the planet of growth, is in a very dynamic relationship with Saturn, the planet which can be linked to contraction. So how does that work out? Because they are actually aligning in a sextile for the whole of this month within 3 degrees. They become exact on the 19th. The sextile is very enabling. Jupiter in the sign of Taurus Taurus slows Jupiter down a little bit. Its excesses that come through its rulership of Sagittarius can be over-optimism, but it's better to have Jupiter in our corner than not. Whereas Saturn's in the part of your situation to do with longer-term finances, business, pensions, investments, property, anything that's shared with somebody else. So I feel a business-like approach, but still having a strategy which is focused on growth and believing in what you have to offer. So if you've got business skills or experiences that you've accumulated over a long period of time, I feel that you could finally get the breakthrough that raises your profile in the way it really deserves, which would be truly exciting for you. Now, the full moon on the 4th is in your sister fire sign of Sagittarius. And perhaps one of the problems that you're going to encounter this month, particularly in the first 2 weeks, is that you're going to be so much in demand, Leo, which is very gratifying. I don't think you're a sign that shies away from attention. And having the full moon in Sagittarius just means that you need to toggle between what other people want from you, where the sun's located, and what you may want from situations as an individual. But this is probably one of the best full moons to have, the 5th, 11th axis, particularly for you with the moon in Sagittarius, which is very exuberant, freedom loving. I just feel this is going to feed into this sense of uplift and hope that's emerging in your situation, which really can crystallize from the 5th with Venus arriving in your sign. But it could mean, in the most extreme circumstances, that a relationship that just hasn't worked does finally come to an end, and Venus moving into your sign is the new epoch, the brand new beginning. And that doesn't necessarily mean that someone new is immediately going to come into your life. The first house is about our identity. Venus can be about fashion, taste, aesthetics, presentation, and so if you give yourself some kind of glamorous makeover at this juncture in the month, it really wouldn't be a surprise at all. But in general, Venus through to the early part of October is going to see a lot of people focused on what makes you unique, and that's a lovely thing. But your sign can be quite surprisingly quite conservative at times. I don't necessarily mean politically, but you can have a way of presenting yourself. And I think that Venus and Mars, particularly when they come into that near conjunction at the end of the month, are really encouraging you to be a lot more daring in all sorts of moves, whether it's about demonstrating your talents, your flair, your artistry, your individuality, your panache. Very rarely will we have a time where you are given a set of planetary influences where you can elevate all the best about yourself. We all have the best version of ourselves. We all have the grumpier, grittier version, which is not always so nice, not always so edifying, but this is your chance to showcase yourself in a way which is dazzling and is going to bring so much praise, recognition and attention your way. And as I said before, you know, you're not usually shy of receiving those energies. What's going to help the whole process is that on the 11th, Mercury moves from your professional sector, where it may have seen you talking to people in positions of influence, negotiating, perhaps even retraining in some way. It moves into house 11 on the 11th, joining up with the sun, and that's uber sociable, so that's fabulous too. However, on the 11th, Pluto in its retrograde does invert back into Capricorn, where it had been residing since 2008 through to the 23rd of March. So this year Pluto's just been in Aquarius for 11 weeks. Next year from the 21st of January will be for 38 weeks. And this is really important, to be honest, because in week 3, the Sun and Pluto are going to be in a 150-degree angle called a quincunx, which is hard to integrate. I'm going to share more about that shortly, because on the 17th, Saturn goes into retrograde, and that's going to be retracing its steps through to the 4th of November. But remember, we're talking about the sector of longer term finances and so on. So despite the fact you may start something this month and, you know, create a lot of spark and effervescence, you may be asked by Saturn to really have to roll up your sleeves and apply yourself in a much deeper, more sustained way. It's not just all about the presentational starting point. It's about how you go on from that point. So you may need to grit your teeth a little bit there, but the new moon on the 18th ordinarily would be a great chance to network, connect to others over the following month. But this one is really hit hard by the dreamy, drifting and sometimes distorting energies, even draining energies of Neptune, which, like Saturn, is in house 8, and Saturn's now in retrograde. So it's important you're not too idealistic from the point of that new moon in the following month. In some kind of group situation, if there is some sort of politics or unspoken energies which tend to drain you down a little bit, you might be reviewing some of your friendships and connections with others. 21st, however, sees the summer solstice. Sun returns to Cancer. Critical moment in Western tropical astrology. This is cardinal quadrant 2, ushering in the next 13-week period, and for you it's house 12, which can be reflective. Perhaps so much has gone on in the early parts of the month, you're going to need something of a breather. This is augmented by Mercury moving into this area a week later. And so don't be surprised if you're thinking more about the people you really feel most safe and comfortable with. And some kind of restorative pursuits at the end of this month would be fab, like going for a spa day, perhaps swimming, going by a lake or river, the sea. Very restorative for you. The 12th house loves those kind of things, and of course Cancer, very much linked to the water and the sea. The icon for this sign, the glyph, is the crab. So a bit of a breather is needed. Also, Mars in your sign is in quite an intense argument with Uranus in the last 10 days. Maybe all the new energy that's coming in doesn't change the fact that even if we're gaining greater recognition or elevation in our career, we still have to service our customers, our clients, work with colleagues, deal with the politics in the business, and also the wider environment that every situation exists in. So, you know, whether we're working as a maker or as a service provider, we're still dependent on what's going on in the wider world. So there could be some disruption which frustrates you hugely towards the end of the month. But also in the last 3 days, there's that glorious connection between Venus and Mars. And because of the 12th house energy that's come in, perhaps if there is somebody that is drawn to you romantically, they may do so in quite a low-key way. They may not even express that interest particularly overtly, so watch out for non-verbal communication, body language. Someone could be just around your space a little bit more, whether it's through a group or in your community, and just sort of this person sort of creeping up on my consciousness. But the Sun does forge a great link with Jupiter, which can be very, very lucky. So even if you're doing things that are low-key behind the scenes, or in a bigger institution, your job might be not one that necessarily gets that obvious recognition that seems to be right to the fore at the start of this month, still some good fortune can feed through. And also the Sun forges a terrific link with Saturn. So I would say that maybe a lot of past effort, persistence, patience, investment, sacrifice on your part, because you've done a lot of that with Pluto in your 6th house since 2008. You've put others first a lot of the time, and maybe you could be surprised by how much celebration of your sacrifice does occur towards the end of this month. But as ever, it's never a perfect process life. There's going to be some bumps in the road. That Mars square with Uranus is one of them. But I would really enjoy the fact that over the next 4 months through to early October, you are going to be a person in demand, recognised for your unique talents and way of being, and that's going to be very gratifying and a big lift for your sense of well-being, sense of self-worth and sense of purpose. It's been a real pleasure being with you, Leo. I'd be honoured if you would like, comment or subscribe.